What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of DV4 Nier Automata version 1.1. This is episode 8, and with me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
Mhm. Let's get this out of the way first. I mean, obviously, neither of us are surprised that Nier once again got delayed.
I kind of
After
expected it to happen eventually. It happened once; it'll probably happen again. And I mean, of course, and I really am going to call it an excuse that they're saying it's because of COVID. I don't believe that, to be honest, because they've already said that before. I think it has more to do with the production issues, involving Aniplex. I'm more likely, I'm more inclined to believe that as opposed to the COVID excuse.
I mean, it's what's weird that Aniplex is like the only company that's really making these kinds of excuses, while every other series
Yeah,
like
like
My
why isn't
Hero
this
Academia.
happening with any other production? Why is it just this one? It seems because not heard about this happening with any other anime that's been coming out.
Like
This only really happened, when the pandemic had, first started. It impacted a lot of different anime productions, but I mean, yeah, it still is happening, but it's not as widespread as it was. So it's kind of hard to believe that's the reason why. I just don't really buy it.
I mean, one major reason that people are pointing out that they're still outsourcing to China, which is,
It could
the
be. I
epicenter,
mean, I guess
right?
if you take that into consideration, I suppose, but I don't know. I just think, I mean, it's just really annoying that this is
Yeah, it's
continuing to happen, and we have to wait
it's
for who
it's
knows
it's
how
just
long for the next episode after this
it's
one.
just just a combination of bad management, overworking your staff,
Yeah.
outsourcing to China for one thing, um, and also bad scheduling. Because we have to remember that we're already at the end of the winter anime season, and they're moving on to the onto the spring season. So another
Yeah.
factor I would put in is maybe they didn't have any available time slots for uh, I guess for the next 3 months because of the new animes coming out for the spring season, so that could play a factor. But I don't know if there are any other animes taking over Nier's time slot.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. And that's why I say like I'm not really sure how long we're going to be waiting for the next episode. It could be even longer than last time that this happened.
Probably. I mean, I still stand by what I said when after its initial break or initial delay, that this should have been held off maybe until the next anime season, because they
Yeah.
can't keep doing this, because for one, it's like this is one of the more anticipated anime adaptations, and plus it's also being written by Yoko Taro, who's also being involved with the production, so that makes it even better. But considering that that they're not handling this properly, which is causing these delays, you're just like, it's just pissing everybody off.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so this episode, like you said, it pretty much picks up like right after the last one where they encountered A2, and they're reporting to the Orha about the incident. And I think it was the commanders basically telling them that A2 is a traitor. She's not to be trusted, and if they encounter her again, they need to I guess take her out.
Yeah, and of course 9S tries to inquire as to why she's being hunted down, but of course the commander states that that information is classified, and their mission is to just go hunt down A2 and eliminate her. So much of this episode is, well, most of this episode is them, both 9S and A2, no, 9S and 2B, uh, trying to investigate more information about A2. So the first person they question is, of course, Lily, who, of course, recognizes A2 as, the number 2 unit who accompanied her in that Pearl Harbor mission a couple episodes ago. But of course, she kind of plays coy, or just mainly just stays silent about that. So 2B and 9S pretty much go out and try question other people of the resistance, particularly Devila and Popola. But of course, then they don't have any information on A2 either.
Yeah, and they also mentioned that they shouldn't really be seen talking to them uh, because they're well, the resistance doesn't really like them too much, but they don't really elaborate on that. We see with some of the resistance members just kind of like spying on them and it's sort of giving them dirty looks.
Yeah.
I will say, yeah, there is a reason for that, but they probably won't go into that until like much later.
hmm but of course, Devil and Popola recommend that they go look for Jackass somewhere out in the what was it, the
The flooded
sunken
city.
the flooded city coastline, which I'm surprised that they're already there, because we
Yeah,
mentioned this in the last episode, considering that they ended up skipping one of the major events in the game, which is 2B and 9S exploring the what was it, the
the
derelict
underground.
alien, yeah, the underground, which for whatever reason they haven't
It
explored this in the anime.
it's a weird thing to skip because it's kind of an important plot point. So I suppose it could they could try to implement that differently. And maybe it's just not going to be a fight because it looks like obviously they're just not adapting that part of the game with where they're out in the story. Um, Another fight that it seems like they've skipped is the I forget what the boss's name is, but it's a boss fight out in the sea where you basically fight it with your flight on your flight units. I feel like it's not really an important fight for the most part, so I think I don't really have a problem with them skipping that. I don't remember it really being all that relevant. So I don't think they're really missing anything by not including it in the anime.
I
But I
mean,
kind of
the end of that fight does lead into what happens at the end of this
yeah,
episode.
yeah, but they kind of have it play out differently in the anime. Um, but I kind of like how in the anime they sort of substituted it with, I guess you would say like some relationship development with 9S and 2B, where 9S sort of like goes into the just kind of gets his feet wet, like goes into the ocean, and invites 2B to go with him, and says that sometimes, I guess it's fun to do unnecessary things, quote unquote. So 2B, well, both of them end up taking off their blindfolds and just going into like kind of stepping into the ocean. And I liked it. It seems like there's more of these little like sort of intimate scenes between them in the anime. Like there is in the game, but it seems like the anime is like trying to, like I guess wherever it can, like trying to include more of that.
Yeah, they did it in previous episodes, like that one episode where they were exploring the abandoned mall with a 9S asking if 2B would like to go around buying T-shirts once.
Yeah,
The
well, that was in the
fight.
game, but I mean, they also had that scene where they were like standing on the roof, and they had that conversation. They kind of like followed up about that, which I think was different from what happens in the game because I don't really think that happens.
Mhm.
And also, I kind of like how they, they are giving Jackass more to do, because in this episode they just find her like fishing, wearing a bikini for some reason. I guess it is just put in there just for the sake of fan service. I don't know because I can't think of any other reason why they did that. But she tries to fish, but it just eventually like gives up and throws a grenade into the ocean to try to to try to get some fish.
Yeah, and of course, once 2B catches up tonight to Jackass, Jackass of course asks for the sake of research for 2B to consume the fish, even though she knows it's going to end up killing her.
I do like how they at least implemented that in the in the skit at the end of the episode.
Yeah, which is mentioning like one of the the joke endings that that included, if you had the choice to eat the fish, you end up dying and get get that ridiculous ending. But
Yeah.
and then of course there was another scene before this in which 2B and 9S end up finding the lunar tier for what was it, Operator 60? Was it?
Yeah, so yeah, I think so. I think this is also another well, actually I'm not sure if it was a side I know in the game, of course, you had the side quest of Meals Memories where you had to find lunar tears, but I don't it might have been in the main plot where you do end up also finding a lunar tier for one of the operators. Uh but then there was also another side quest where you took pictures of different places um for one of the operators too. And they also implemented that in this episode where 9S went around to take pictures of different things and then sent it to one of the operators. I find it interesting how they are trying to implement some of the side quests into the main plot.
There's one thing I want to point out. That one of the pictures that 9S took is, I think, what was it? Those vehicles, the shop vehicles that Emil was driving. I mean,
Yeah.
it's an easy to miss thing, but if you look carefully, that one of them is obviously like the Emil. What would have that vehicle that he drives around the map, if unless you stop him to go shopping for something. But yeah, it's
Yeah, speaking of
um
Emil, I'm still curious as to what they're gonna do with him in the anime. If they're just gonna just leave his head in that tree, or if he's gonna I mean, obviously they have something planned. I guess planned for him in the anime if they're doing something different with him just being in a tree like that. But I'm just not sure what exactly they're gonna do with him.
mhm. Yeah. So back to Tubi with Jackass. So uh Tubi of course asked Jackass about A2, but she also says that she doesn't know anything about her, but she knows that that she had a prior partnership with Lily, which of course Tubi already knew at the time, but she wasn't sure. So it was pretty obvious that Tubi knows that this is the same number 2 unit that accompanied Lily at the Pearl Harbor mission.
Yeah.
So once that was done, she tries to contact 9S, but of course she can't get a response from him. And it actually splits between both 2B and 9S's perspective by the end of the episode, in which 2B was actually separated from 9S when she was looking for Jackass, and 9S, of course, was doing his own thing. Like I said, was sending pictures to his personal operator. But at the same time, he's also been looking into what the Yorha was hiding as well.
Yeah, and he ends up eavesdropping on a conversation with the commander and the Council of Humanity. Um,
Yeah,
and
it, it-
but of course they end up noticing that somebody had I guess hacked into the system, and then he has to quickly back out of it.
yeah. I mean, it's. I don't think he really got much into this in the game, but I'm surprised that they're having
Um,
them do more in this.
I think there was a
Unless,
part like this in the game, but I can't remember exactly. I know there was a part where he does end up hacking into Yorha's systems, but I think that happened in Route B. So it's interesting that they're doing this stuff. That they're doing some of this here, uh, because I know there is a part where he does hack into Yorha and try to learn about some of its secrets.
yeah, I think he learns more about their secrets. I think by routes C and D, or just
Yeah.
mainly route C. Um, but yeah, but as soon as he backs out of the conversation, he notices someone down in the hallway with someone with long hair, which initially he thinks it's A2, but then he goes into a room filled with basically just filled with different artworks of 2B and 9S, particularly one picture recently taken with 2B and 9S playing around in the water.
Yeah. Um, I was I was questioning who this was at first, but I didn't really think too much about it. But I mean, considering where they're at with adapting the game, and that they're kind of because this does happen in the game where 2B and 9S are separated, but it happens differently. And as soon as I heard they were going to split up, I was like, okay, well that's how they're doing it in the anime. So basically, yeah, I think this person is probably Adam, based on the strand of hair, and also the fact that he's just kind of missing at the near the end of the episode where Eve notices he's gone, and he can't sense him anywhere. And of course, not much of a spoiler, but what happens after this is, of course, 9S does end up getting captured by Adam, but it kind of happens off screen in the game. So maybe in the anime they're gonna show that, um, and kind of showing some new aspects of Adam's character too, because I don't remember anything about him being like an artist, but I guess it would make sense if he's trying to learn all these things about humanity, that maybe he would learn about art and how to maybe like replicate art somehow.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the most disappointing things about both Adam and Eve in the original games because you don't really get much about them other than just seeing snippets of them talking to each other, across, those long tables talking about, humanity and such. But I mean, hopefully
Yeah,
we'll get a little bit more with both Adam and Eve. I'm surprised that they're already doing it this soon, considering that there's only like what my guess 4 more episodes left of this first core
it's
before hitting. Yeah,
it's possible that there's going to be maybe even more new content that Taro wants to add in as well. Maybe he's deciding that he wants to cut out certain things from adapting them from the game and just substituting them with new content. I guess that's the only thing I can figure.
yeah. I guess I don't mind some of the boss fights or some boss fight events being skipped over, but it's just weird that they skipped over the derelict alien ship part.
Yeah, I mean it's possible. Like I said, it's possible that that plot point could be implemented in some other way in the anime. Uh, it doesn't. I guess it doesn't have to be like with that them adapting that boss fight.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's still possible. I mean, it's still going the way I expect it to. It's just a little bit differently than what I would have wanted to. But yeah. I mean, overall, it's still good, nonetheless. And so far, like I do like that they're implementing more of 2B and 9S's interactions with each other, pretty much building their relationship, and like before, of course, what happens during the events of Route C.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's good that they're doing that because that way, you care more about their characters. I mean, I thought they did that well in the game, but I like that they're trying to expand on it in the anime.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, overall, it is. I think it was a pretty decent episode. Not the way I expected it to, but it's still good for what it was. Even though, like, there's some like there was obviously there wasn't a lot of action. It's just mainly just character interactions. With 2B and 9S, and some weird random fan service with Jackass for whatever reason. Just
Yeah, I can't say I expected that.
yeah. But yeah, it still sucks that once again we're having to deal with this delay and not knowing when they're gonna bring it back. So,
Yeah.
not to
And it's
mention like
annoying because at the point they're at in the story, this is the we have to wait however long for the next episode.
yeah. I mean, at least the good news is that they're releasing the English dub version, at least for the next 2 months for now. And of course, they brought back the original cast of the English dub version, so that's a plus. But
Yeah.
it's just a matter of like, even if like they bring back the remaining 4 episodes, what are they going to do with the second core? Because that's also one of the it has one of the biggest, you know like, I'm not going to spoil anything. It's just like there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the next route after this.
Yeah. Yeah, I am wondering how they're gonna do that. I anticipate there'll probably be the most changes actually in that with that part of the story as well. Um, but yeah, I'm really interested in how they're gonna handle it. I mean, I would think that they would go on a break in between cores as well with this series. So I mean, I don't know if they're just gonna go straight into the second core, or if they're just gonna take another break between core, first, this first core and then the second one.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
I don't know. It's just frustrating that we're having to put up with whatever they're having to deal with. I mean,
yeah,
even before the initial delay, that they said that they weren't planning on making this a continuous, you know having these continuous on to the next core that they were originally planning on taking a break between cores. But
Mhm.
in terms of like what's going on right now, I don't know how they're handling it, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we'll see. But unfortunately, we're just going to have to wait until the next episode, whenever that's going to be. Hopefully, it's not going to be a really long wait. But yeah, I guess whenever that happens, we will see you all next time.